let's talk about this front page of the Mail, the huge boost for women's rights. Yesterday, guidance was issued from the Equality and Human Rights Commission, and they basically re-established women-only safe spaces and saying, yes, discrimination against someone of a different biological sex, doesn't matter how you identify, you can call yourself Sheila, you do whatever you want. If you're born into a male body, you are biologically male. And their new guidance, they're saying that gyms, hospitals, shops, everywhere are going to be legally able to offer single-sex services, where it is, where discrimination is relevant. So we're looking at, women's refuges, single-sex wards in hospitals, changing rooms, toilets. They're saying you can have it's legal for a gym to limit communal changing rooms to a single sex, as long as a gender-neutral changing room is also provided for trans people. Toilets can also be limited to men and to women, because often we're told, oh, well, that's the law now. People have misinterpreted the law. They have clarified it. I mean, I'll say, as a woman myself, and as the mother of a 15-year-old daughter, hallelujah. Yeah,
about time too. It's just insane.
It is, though, isn't it? I don't know anyone who wants this.
No, I mean, when they came out with communal bathrooms for, in various establishments, even now, me as a man, if I walk into a restaurant communal bathroom and there's a woman coming out, I feel very self-conscious. I feel self-conscious for her.
Trying not to be intimidated. But again, that's the thing about bathrooms is, there's one way in and one way out. Yeah. Often you're only person in there, or two people. That is, I mean, I know, I'm 5'11", very confident woman. That is still intimidating for a woman.
It is.
And you're a 6-foot+ man, and you're walking in, and a teenage girl is coming. But it makes men feel uncomfortable as well as women.
Exactly, and that's the point. I think where we discount is, I think the vast majority of decent blokes would actually feel uncomfortable and do feel uncomfortable.
That, by the way, includes trans people.
Indeed, yeah. Absolutely. Or can we call them blokes?
Yeah, well, no, but whether trans men or women. But I think, the vast majority of trans people are horrified by this stuff as well. And, this is, I don't want that awful, Southern American state thing where people are, you can't go to the men's toilet, you can't go to the women's toilet, you can't. We need to provide facilities, but we don't change everything. There was a reason why we separated the loos. There was a reason why we separated the changing rooms. There was a reason why 80-year-old old ladies in hospital don't want to be next to a bed with a man in it.
Quite right. It's just respect to the individual.
Yes, it's just not complicated. So why did they have to make it so complicated?
No idea. I'm as much of a loss as you, but I'm very pleased that this threshold law has come through.
Well, indeed.
And at least some people can feel more reassured. But I think, as you rightly say, those that have got young children, young girls, that they can go and feel private in a private facility.
And boys, I mean, certainly everywhere I've went, like with the gym and things, up to the age of 8 is perfectly fine to take a boy in there. And again, it's just about feeling safe. What did you make also of the government's Safe to Be Me conference? They're holding this big conference. 80 charities have now withdrawn. And this is over the ban on gay conversion therapy. Now, it's not actually really a thing here. It is a big thing in America. Yeah. We have laws already against any forceful treatment of people, so that's already covered. But persuading people that being gay is wrong and something you want to change, I don't. That shouldn't be a right thing for people to do. I agree with that. But there was a plan to include trans conversion therapy as part of that ban. The government is like, again, they've been all over the place. Utah, they haven't got a clue what they're doing on a lot of these things. But they decided to exclude trans. Now, the key thing about this here is that if a 13-year-old girl goes to a doctor or goes to and says, I think I may be a boy. Yeah. And this is happening en masse now. I mean, thousands and thousands of children on the waiting list for this. She says, I think I'm a boy. For the doctor to even, or the teacher or anyone to even say, well, are you sure about that? Or maybe you might be gay, or maybe you're just having some teenagey confused feelings. And to even have that conversation, it was thought, would be possibly banned under, you would be trying to convert someone from being trans. And there were some genuine concerns that you couldn't actually provide proper therapy for people. So that's why that's been excluded. It seems to be a very good idea. An awful lot of charities, though, have said, whoa, we think this is transphobic. What do you mean?
It's mad.
I think that's all we need to say.
It's mad. I mean, there needs to be open dialogue for individuals to explore whatever they want with freedom, with liberty, and yeah, it's mad. I'm sorry, I'm actually astounded in terms of being able to think of anything else other than that word to describe it.
Why not? Let's talk about, well, I think a very welcome day yesterday, an announcement from the Equality and Human Rights Commission, the Equalities Watchdog, who, after long overdue decision after consultation and years of uncertainty, have decided to reinstate the legal right to single-sex places like gyms, like hospital wards and changing rooms in shops, and even refuges, where unless you're a biological woman, not someone who claims they're a woman, you are not allowed into those spaces, and that discrimination is legal. Well, let's talk about this with Maya Forstater. She's Executive Director of Sex Matters. She herself has come up against the, should we say, the trans lobby in terms of accusations against her simply for speaking up for women's safety and women's rights. Maya, no doubt you are as delighted as I and pretty much every parent, man and woman, is today, that we've got single-sex spaces back.
Yes, it's brilliant, Julia. It's not a change in the law. It's going back to what the law has always said. But the Equality and Human Rights Commission have given clear guidance for service providers and for individuals using a space. If a space says female only, you should be able to be confident that it is female only.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. This isn't very complicated to most of us. And let's point out, this is not an anti-trans thing. This is not against people who are living as a different gender from what they are. This is about not offending people. This is about safety and anxiety levels for women and girls. Talking to my guest Will Geddes this morning, he doesn't want to walk into a toilet where there are 13-year-old girls or a changing room, and 13-year-old girls and grown women don't want to be in these places, changing rooms, toilets, or hospital wards with adult men. There was a reason why we brought these. They're called safe spaces, but these gender-divided places. There was a reason why we brought them in. They were for everyone's benefit.
Right, and not just for safety, for dignity and privacy, just for the real basics of people being able to move around in the world, whether they're young women and girls, Muslim women, Jewish women, all kinds of people want privacy when they're undressing.
I'm none of those things. I definitely want privacy when I'm undressing.
Absolutely.
But the key thing is also most men don't want it. And I don't believe there's actually been such a demand from trans women or trans men either.
Well, I mean, there is a demand by people who want to use opposite sex services in order to validate their feeling that they're really a man or a woman. And there's been an expectation that they could do that. In fact, their doctors told them to do it as a sort of test of whether they could get around in the world. But those doctors didn't have the right to overrule the consent of other people. We are also going around our day-to-day life, and we're not there to validate someone's gender feelings. We're trying to have our own dignity and privacy.
And the other issue here is, again, I don't think this has ever been an issue about people, being concerned about that. That awful thing that we had, when people were anti-gay rights. That sort of this awful thing that gay people were associated with paedophiles. I mean, there was just sort of horrible homophobia. And then we've had this idea that people who are concerned about trans rights trampling on women's rights, that people are accusing trans people of being sex predators. That's not what's happening. What's been happening, though, is sex predators have been using and abusing the legislation and the rights and the expectations of what's come under trans rights to gain access to victims, to the victims, whether it's, men pretending they are trans to get into women's toilets, changing rooms, women's prisons even, women's refuges. So this is about trans people being exploited as well.
Yes, and the bottom line is nobody should have to negotiate about where they go. Everyone should have clarity, and often it's easy. It's not rocket science to have a third space, to have a third option. Everyone should be accommodated in public life, but women and girls and men and boys need to be able to have privacy from the opposite sex. And the Equality and Human Rights Commission is there to protect everybody's rights, and they've accepted this and they're promoting this, which is, is brilliant.
And they're going to get a lot of attacks for it, but you know and I know this is a victory for common sense and for the vast majority of people, men and women, I believe also most trans people as well. Maya Forstater, Executive Director of Sex Matters, thank you so much for joining us. 7:46.